DIBELS, Dynamic Indicator of Basic Early Literacy Skills by Bowie Chu and Tracy Chu. DIBELS, developed by Dr. Roland Good and Dr. Ruth Kaminsky, is a set of measurement procedures used to assess children's early literacy development. It is administered to children from kindergarten to grade 6. The primary use of DIBELS is to identify at-risk learners of early literacy skills so that support and intervention plans can be made early for these children. It is also used to monitor their development in literacy.
So how does DIBELS work? The DIBELS assessment is an individually administered 1-minute reading task which is often repeated 3 times a year. The DIBELS assessments are made in each of the basic literacy skills, including phonemic awareness, alphabetical principle, accuracy and fluency with connected text, comprehension, and vocabulary. The DIBELS assessment represents a blueprint for guiding teachers through the essentials of basic literacy skills development. It is a set of early literacy skills validated as precursors to beginning reading. It later becomes a measurement for basic reading development. The DIBELS assessment also provides progress monitoring and benchmark data. So within the DIBELS assessment, it looks at content, which measures reading, construct, which is consistent with reading theory, and predictive validity, which predicts reading. The DIBELS assessment also measures basic pre-reading skills that lead to fluent decoding, word-level reading, and connected text reading. So let's look at benchmarking. The benchmark fluency rates or goals direct students through pre-reading skills followed by fluency standards. It is measured with beginning, middle, and end of the year goals. Students' level of fluency is assessed every week or 2 by the teacher. So let's look at the kindergarten example. Looking at row 1, which is the DIBELS initial sound fluency, under the beginning of the year column, we can see the criteria of benchmarking. If a student, for example, at the beginning of the year was only able to make 4 initial sounds on a 1-minute DIBELS probe, then the student is behind the learning curve and is at risk for reading failure. The teacher at this point would then try to intervene and create a more balanced curriculum that is directed towards the goal of increasing the student's initial sound fluency. By the middle of the year, the kindergarten students should be able to say 10 to 25 initial sounds on a 1-minute probe, as seen in column 4. Looking at row 2, in the same time frame, the students also expected to have letter naming fluency from a minimum of 8 letters named at the beginning of the year, which is in column 2, to a minimum of 40 letters by the end of the year on a 1-minute DIBELS probe. Looking down to rows 3 and 4, and moving to columns 4 and 6, which are the middle and the end of the year respectively, we see that to be successful, a student must be minimally somewhere between 7 and 18 segmented phonemes per minute by the middle of kindergarten, and somewhere between 10 and 35 minimally by the end of kindergarten on a DIBELS probe.
DIBELS, as mentioned before, are assessment tools that can be used with all the students in the classroom. Those that benefit the most from DIBELS are students with reading difficulties and reading disabilities. These students may struggle with decoding words, word recognition, reading fluently, and comprehension. Teachers can use DIBELS to identify the students at risk for reading problems and help diagnose students with reading disabilities in order to implement intervention plans earlier on in their lives. Teachers can run DIBELS with their whole class. It is consistent with the tiered approach to assessment and intervention. In Tier 1, teachers can conduct DIBELS with the whole class during a literacy session to start identifying at-risk students. At Tier 2 and 3, DIBELS are used in smaller, intensive groups or targeted individuals for diagnosing purposes. Teachers can administer these 1-minute tasks regularly to monitor their students' progression. Although there seems to be many benefits to DIBELS, there exists also several limitations. Researchers have argued that the validity of DIBELS solely rely on 1-minute literacy assessments of accuracy and speed. This does not tell us much about the abilities of the students to read because it doesn't tell us anything about how much students are actually comprehending. In addition to that, there are questions about how translatable these texts are to authentic texts. Meaning, will children be able to read just as fluently and accurately with great comprehension on texts other than the DIBELS test situation, such as newspaper, fiction books, nonfiction books, etc.? Some educators have indicated that it is a huge time investment to administer these individual tasks to all their students and to decode and interpret the data collected. Lastly, many educators have argued that this measurement tool is simply a money grab for the producers as DIBELS lack strong empirical evidence of their validity and benefits to children.